Before we jump into this, I just want to preface this video by saying this is by far one of the biggest projects I've ever taken while doing videos on YouTube. This is the channel's 200th video, so I'm kind of considering it somewhat of a special, but other than that, it is just a absolutely massive project with the amount of recording and editing I had to do for this one, and I hope you guys have as much fun with it as I did recording. But other than that, let's jump in and see what happens if I try to beat all 5 mainline Fallout games in under 24 hours. Oh boy, it's gonna be a ride. Starting out with Fallout 1, which is going to be our shortest covered game today. I started out in the vault, picked up some items, and then spent some time equipping my inventory and kind of remembering the controls for the game since I haven't played Fallout 1 in a couple of years. After that, it was mostly just dealing with a couple of the rats around the vault to get a little chunk of experience early on, before popping out into the world map and starting our adventure. I of course had to deal with the occasional random encounter here and there, as I was really not going to level up my survival skill, or whatever it was called in Fallout 1, I honestly can't remember. It's been about a week since I played through Fallout 1, but whatever. Eventually, I stopped into Shady Sands so that I could start doing some quests early on, as I would need pretty much every ounce of experience I could get during this run since I wouldn't have a whole lot of time to stop for side quests. I got the quests that I could do around town, mostly dealing with the rad scorpions, as well as picking up Ian so that I could actually have some damage early on, since you're not really well equipped at the beginning of Fallout 1. You don't have much in the way of heals, ammo, weaponry, really anything. Your skills are lacking, and you're pretty much inaccurate with most of the weapons that you have early on, so grabbing Ian is a great choice for damage when you're starting out. So I used him pretty much the entire run until he did eventually die. Yes, my companions do eventually die while playing through Fallout 1, and I was not going to reload saves to keep them alive the entire game. But moving on, next stop was Junktown, where I headed over to Killian's store to browse his merchandise, as well as help him out dealing with the assassin, because the assassin actually has some pretty good items on him, that being a hunting rifle, which is a fairly good find early on, especially if you're focusing on small guns instead of, say, energy weapons or big guns. I decided I would go ahead and stick around and help Killian take out Gizmo by getting the confession by using the wiretap that Killian gave me in my inventory, took the confession back to Killian, who decided that we should go over and, just murder Gizmo, which I was all for. So after getting the guard's help, we went over and started killing him and his bodyguard. This wasn't too difficult of a fight, as there's a whole lot of NPCs there, and once you're done, there's actually a whole lot of items you can get here, some of which are worth a good amount of caps. So after getting into another fight right after at the bar, and dealing with some random encounters, one of which just being a nice caravan, I sold off some items, picked up some supplies, and made it to the hub. The hub is a great spot to start, because I can go gamble for infinite caps, which I did do by holding down 2 buttons for a solid 5 minutes. With about 30,000 caps in my inventory, I think that's what I had when I stopped. It might have only been around 25,000, I don't know. Anyways, I bought pretty much anything that I could want for the rest of the run. Obviously, I didn't have access to the best items yet, so I did some more quests until I could progress to that point of the game, some of which just being for Derek and dealing with, murdering people. He's not exactly the best person to work for, but I figured working for him to start with was a good bet, because then I could use the sheriff and his goons to help take him down later, which I obviously did, after, doing the first quest for him and becoming a criminal by murdering a random family. I don't really have sympathy for that, and I'm not going to have sympathy for that. But moving on, I went over to the sheriff and basically ratted on my employer, and we went down, and I spent way longer than need be trying to deal with this fight. This fight took a good amount of attempts, a lot of save scumming, a good amount of deaths. Just basically took me a little while before I finally got through it and was able to actually kill everyone with, basically just luck on my side. Thank God I bought a sniper rifle earlier, because there is a whole lot of loot to be had down in the basement once you've killed everyone. Man, oh man, is there a whole lot of shit down in this basement. Stims, armor, guns, ammo, pretty much anything, you name it, there's something on the corpses down there. I also went over and killed the moneylenders. I didn't have enough skill to lockpick into their locker to get the mad amount of items that they have, but I did get their XP, the weapons, and the caps from them. So I moved on to Boneyard to start dealing with the ghouls and get the water chip, because that was pretty much the next thing that I really needed to do. I could have spent some more time doing side quests, but, you know, I'm a bad person, so I decided let's just go brute force our way through the ghouls and kill them all, because I can't be bothered to help them this time around. Though, do keep in mind, I am usually a good person when I play through these games normally. I try to actually help people and be the good guy, but when I'm doing a challenge or something, all bets are off, everything goes out the window. I just want to be done with the run as quickly as humanly possible. So, pretty much all the ghouls died. I had no qualms about doing this, and I didn't really care, so I made sure to get the water chip, head back to the vault where I was praised as a hero. I picked up some of the supplies in the locker, which I can't remember if you can get to at the very beginning of the game or not, and it makes me think that I probably should have looked into that. Dealt with more random world encounters, then headed over to the gunrunners where I could actually pick up some of the best weaponry humanly possible for this run, which I was super excited for. The main thing I wanted was a combat shotgun, 2 of them actually for one of my companions, as well as a suit of combat armor. I also picked up a minigun, which I tried using a couple times, but my big gun skill was just not high enough to make any good use of it. After that, I was pretty much done here. I had nothing left to do around the area that I really wanted to stick around for, so I just headed off to the church. This took a lot of save scumming. I was here for quite a while, just save scumming through dialogue, save scumming through skill checks, save scumming through combat. It took me a good while, a good amount of deaths, a good amount of attempts before I finally was able to get a good run where I got lucky with crits and was able to pick up the stuff off of Morpheus's body and head down into the basement so that I could actually open up the vault where the master was. This was a pretty difficult area, I'm not gonna lie. I skipped basically every bit of combat that I could and then just save scummed for crits through the master's entire combat thing. I don't like dealing with this, honestly. Normally I try to take the route where I make him kill himself because combat with him, especially when I'm under-leveled, is just absolutely aggravating, but I did it anyways. God, I love save scumming for crits in the old games, man. It's just a classic thing of old RPGs to just save scum for stuff like that. But I still had to deal with the, you know, lieutenant and all of that, so I headed over there. Tried to do as little combat as humanly possible, got into a couple fights, but for the most part I was able to make it through pretty peacefully, and I just activated the self-destruct without really having to fight the lieutenant, which was pretty nice considering, again, under-leveled, and I really didn't feel like fighting another boss, and that brings us to the end of Fallout 1. I know I didn't cover Fallout 1 all that much, I didn't go too into depth on this game, and I apologize for that, but there's just so much that I did over the course of this run. There's so much to cover that if I were to go into depth on every single little detail for every game that I did, we would be here for probably 3 or 4 hours. This run is already long enough as is, and I just really didn't feel like playing that much of Fallout 1, honestly. The game was already almost 5 hours long, but on to Fallout 2. I forgot what a jump scare the Fallout 2 intro is, which is honestly fairly terrifying, and then we were into the temple to actually start the game. I love Fallout 2. Fallout 2 is probably my favorite Fallout game, and I was absolutely ecstatic to finally play through this game again, even though it has been probably 5 or 6 years since I've played through it. So I was very, very happy to be back into Fallout 2 playing through it again. Even if it's for a challenge and I'm timed and I can't do everything that I want to do, I was just happy to actually get to play the game again. I had an excuse to play it, so, you know, that's great. Anyways, after basically cheesing the temple by using charisma and speech checks, I stole shit from the village and then headed off to the world map to do some exploring. I also figured, why not just cheese the game? So that's exactly what I did. Save scumming through world encounters and just, you know, save scumming basically the entire time through Fallout 2, I decided let's go clear to San Francisco at the very beginning of the game, which is entirely possible if you just abuse save scumming and, you know, running away from encounters. It doesn't really take that long. It took me maybe 30 minutes to get down there, 45 minutes total. just from, mostly getting unlucky world encounters where I got killed and had to reset, or just the amount of time it takes to actually walk there. Regardless, I did eventually make it to San Francisco, which was absolutely amazing because once you get to San Francisco, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from just entering the city at level 1, going up to some of the merchants there and stealing from them with a very low pickpocket skill, and you can get quite literally thousands of caps basically instantaneously and pick up some of the best weapons in the game. Now, I didn't actually do that to begin with. I did steal the caps. However, I had other plans. I went and talked to the Brotherhood, who let me know where Navarro is, and they wanted the vertibird plans. You know what that means? It's time to head over to Navarro because there's vertibird plans there and something else that's extremely interesting for this run that I'm going to be abusing the shit out of. Once I'd made it to Navarro, I talked to Chris, who just let me in without really saying anything. I don't think there's even a skill check to be let in, but I still beat the shit out of him with fists and save scum for crits and stuff as per usual, like I normally do, because it's Fallout 2, of course I do. Anyways, once he was dead, I headed into Navarro proper, the underground base, and booked it straight for a specific set of lockers. The reason I wanted this specific set of lockers in Navarro is because they're not locked, they have insanely overpowered gear like plasma rifles, combat shotguns, etc., but the main thing I was here for was the free suit of advanced power armor. This is the second best piece of armor in the entire game, the only thing beating it is Advanced Power Armor Mark II. So I quite literally had the best power armor in the game at level 1, and I had enough shit to sell to get basically anything I wanted from the stores, which I would be using to get a Gauss rifle and a Gauss pistol. I was going full small guns, balls to the wall build on this setup, and I figured, why not just abuse the Gauss rifle from level 1. I also stole the vertibird plans from the base, which granted me a nice, cool 20,000 experience right early on, which meant that I was about level 4 without even really killing anything. The great thing about this is it essentially trivializes the rest of the run for gear. It's just XP that would be a problem, which meant that I got to kind of pick and choose what quests I wanted to do. After getting assaulted by the Enclave, on the way back, because of course I did, I made it back to San Fran and spent even more skill points that I got from turning in the vertibird plans, and started kind of thinking about what I wanted to do after looting the Brotherhood bunker. I could have went for an energy weapons build because the rifle that you get in the Brotherhood bunker is by far one of, if not the best energy weapon in the game, but I was really wanting to do a Gauss rifle / pistol build. Spoiler alert, I ended up using the pistol a lot more than the rifle, because I absolutely love the fact that the Gauss pistol with a maxed out AP can do 2 attacks per turn, and with high enough small gun skill, you can basically get 2 guaranteed crits per turn by aiming for the eyes. After dealing with multiple encounters and just general restocking for supplies and ammo, I think I was ready to start dealing with some quests. The only problem was I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I just spent some time dealing with some more world encounters for free experience early on, since I didn't really have a plan at this point. I figured why not just head over to Vault 15 and get that out of the way, since that would skip a good chunk of quests and it would also give me a good chunk of experience. I dealt with a few more world encounters on the way there, nothing out of the ordinary for Fallout 2, and then finally made it to NCR, which I did a little bit of bartering at, not too much, I didn't have a whole lot there that I needed, but I figured it would be useful to discover the location for later, and I made it to Vault 15. The thing is, I needed to deal with somebody having their daughter kidnapped here, which meant just, killing a couple people, and I'm not against homicide when it comes to Fallout games. Everyone here knows this, and everyone here has pretty much accepted it. But I was a good citizen, and I rescued the lady's daughter, which got me into Vault 15 proper. If I remember correctly, it's the cons that are in here, although I can't remember exactly based off of lore. I didn't really pay attention all that much. But regardless, I pretty much stole everything that was necessary in here, killed all of the guards, as well as the main guy in here that is responsible for everything. I can't really remember his name either, since it's been quite a while since I did this run. But, of course, it was good experience, and free loot. The rest of the vault was much of the same. I just killed guards, leveled up, dealt with the guards that were up top because, I kind of murdered their friends and family that were in the vault below, and then went and turned in the quest at NCR for some good amount of experience. Once that was done, I could finally pick something else to work on, that being, of course, dealing with NCR more. Although I didn't really do any of their quests, and I didn't actually stop here more than just that time, I went to Vault 13 to check up on the Deathclaws. Normally, you're supposed to help them get their systems back online so that they stop killing people, but I'm kind of against that because if you do that, the Enclave comes and just murders them, so I didn't really want to take the Gek from them, which meant my only other option was, of course, going to the oil rig. So that's what I started working on. I went over to the freighter to start getting the quests to pick up the parts and deal with all of that. Of course, I had to go rescue the dude's girlfriend down below in the hold, getting, molested in the corner by a whole bunch of radiated monsters, which wasn't really that fun. So my first time in here, the girl actually died, and then I promptly got crit by a rocket launcher on a world encounter and had to redo the whole thing because I forgot to save. The second time around, though, I actually managed to save her, which, played good on my conscience, and I felt better about myself because, she wasn't dead. And after that, with her rescued, I could go back up top and start dealing with the quests, one of which being that I had to go back to Vault 13 because I forgot to pick up one of the parts for the freighter here. I don't know why I always manage to forget something in a Fallout run. It wouldn't be a Fallout run if I wasn't forgetting random things. Anyways, with that done, I had to go back to, you guessed it, Navarro, because of course I forgot another thing that I needed to grab earlier on, which meant that I had to kill a couple people in here because one of the parts you can't get without a very high speech skill, I believe, or just a general high sneak skill, neither of which I had at this point, which meant that I had to kill the sergeant down below. We're just gonna pretend that I didn't, just murder a couple people in cold blood. After that, on the way back, I got assaulted by some Deathclaws, which I was happy about because it's, free experience for me, and I needed every bit that I could get. Did a little bit more restocking on ammo before, heading off back to the freighter and dealing with the rest of the game. I was actually pleasantly surprised that the skill books seemed to not be that expensive, and I had basically no use for caps at this point, so I bought some before heading back to the freighter, installing all of the different parts that I needed, which meant I had to go back down into the hold and kill some more monsters. Lucky me. But of course, free experience, I'm not going to complain. And then we got to watch one of the best cinematics in Fallout 2. With this, I was basically at the end game, and I was pretty much done with everything that I could do. I couldn't really go back from the oil rig, so I made the conscious decision that since I was underleveled as hell for Frank, I believe I was like level 13 or 14 when I got here, that I would be cheesing the shit out of his fight. So of course, once I arrived at the oil rig, which is a lovely tiny ass screen, I don't know why the old Fallout games have such issues with resolution. We're gonna move on though. I made it inside, did a little bit of snooping around, and remembered that I can turn on the turrets in this room for the battle with Frank. So of course, that's the route that I took going through the base. Since I, had power armor, the Enclave weren't actually hostile to me, which is absolutely fantastic. I got to deal with one of the worst puzzles in Fallout history. This almost rivals Dima's puzzle from Fallout 4, if you guys have played the Far Harbor DLC, with how annoying it is. Luckily, I remember this puzzle by heart because of how many times I've done it, so it wasn't all that bad. And I made it into the final little section of the base where I would be talking with the president. See, now this is a very annoying conversation. If you fuck up your dialogue too many times, he'll actually call Enclave guards in, and then I believe the rest of the base goes on high alert. I didn't have to find that out because I didn't fuck up my dialogue, since I actually kind of remembered how to deal with this. Of course, you can just straight up kill the president and nobody really gives a shit. I'm not sure why the base doesn't go on lockdown after that, but I stole his keycard, did some more talking to the scientists so that I could figure out a way to blow up the rig, and leveled up one last time. With that, I was pretty much ready to fight Frank. See, here's the thing though, I did some save scumming up top to deal with Granite Squad because they can also help you fight Frank, which I would be gladly taking since it meant that I wouldn't have to do it by myself. When you start combat, you can't actually run to the turret without initiating combat. You have to kind of run to the computer while mid-combat, so if you're unlucky, you can, die on the way there if he gets lucky crits or something. So I got to the computer, used the presidential access keycard to turn on the turrets. The dog, for some reason, started aggroing to me, so I killed it, and then we started taking down Frank. Now this is normally meant to be an insanely hard boss fight, but since I had the help of Granite Squad, it was over in about 5 turns. With Frank on the ground dying, I got to deal with his last little bit of dialogue, which is great, and with that, Fallout 2 was done. I love this game. This game is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I highly recommend, if you haven't played the old Fallout games, to at least play Fallout 2, because it's just such an amazing story. The characters in it are absolutely fantastic, and the gameplay, while dated, is absolutely amazing, and I absolutely love this game, if you couldn't tell. Anyways, with that out of the way, and a time of 14 hours left on the clock, we are heading on to Fallout 3. I do not like Fallout 3. This is not a secret on my channel. I have made it abundantly clear multiple times that I do not like this game. So, after getting birthed out of the nice canal of birthing, I had a joke there, but I kind of forgot it. I don't know where I'm going with that. I was then born into the world of Daddy's Vault as a toddler, and got to start looking around, assigning my specials, playing with toy trucks, a ball, a playpen, and whatever else was in the room to entertain me while I wait for father to come back. After that, I aged up 9 years, got flashbanged into a birthday party, and then it was time to deal with all of that. This is pretty much annoying, and it's just more fluff that I have to sit through for the run, so I made sure to show Dad how appreciative I was of the birthday before moving on. Of course, the next things next was aging up more and dealing with the GOAT exam. I never sit down and take this whenever I play through Fallout 3, I just pick my tag skills like normal and move on with my life because I can't be bothered. After that, I got to finally start committing homicide on people with a baseball bat. I committed some, blunt trauma to one of the guards, and then some of the rad roaches to save Butch's mom. Believe it or not, I actually have a conscience when it comes to saving people. This, of course, does not apply to the Overseer, who I beat to death with my baseball bat before moving on. I also made sure to knock out Amada before leaving the vault because I wasn't coming back and I could care less about all of them, and I hope they all die. Anyways, out into the land, I leveled up, pumped small guns as high as I could, for the most part, because I was, gonna focus that since I was gonna be using, you guessed it, small guns. Anyways, I beelined straight for Smith Casey's garage because I can't be bothered to do the main quest for this game. On my way there though, I did kill a scavenger because he had a missile launcher and I wanted it. I did not expect his Yaogwai to try to bite me, so after getting the missile launcher and killing the Yaogwai, I beat a puppy to death before moving on. Arrived at Smith Casey's garage after being bullied by a Mr. Handy on the way there, or a General Gutsy, one or the other, I honestly don't remember. I committed some more acts that PETA might frown against by beating some more animals to death with my fists on the way in, went to Tranquility Lane, where I of course just started the, communist invasion here because, again, can't be bothered to actually do anything in Fallout 3 because I don't enjoy the game. Anyways, I escaped Tranquility Lane, spent some time talking to Dad, who was very proud of me that I managed to risk my life coming to save him, when there realistically should have been no way that I knew he was here. Again, outside, committed more acts that PETA might frown against by beating more animals to death with my fists, along with, Dad stabbing the shit out of everything with his combat knife because apparently he's too lame to use a gun. Not entirely sure why, but I stopped by Lucky Harith, luckily, there's a pun there, anyways, to barter for some guns since I wanted some weapons before heading off towards Rivet City to get as much supplies as I could. I also planned on kind of sticking to the main quest a little bit, but not really, considering I, kind of avoided the first, third of it, but we're gonna pretend that I didn't. Anyways, fought some ants, fought some raiders, and then continued my way to Rivet City. The raiders were a great source of items and experience. I was very, very happy to get a good chunk of stuff to sell before, eventually reaching Rivet City, where I really didn't know what else to do. I had some plans on the way over there, but I kind of forgot. I think I was gonna go get a side quest or pick up an item. I honestly don't remember. Anyways, I had a teleporting super mutant brute scare the shit out of me, who I just cheesed in a corner and beat to death because his minigun was worth a really good amount of caps, and I wanted it to sell for later once I did get to Rivet City. I stopped by the Jefferson Memorial and spent some time killing a few of the super mutants there, mostly because I wanted their hunting rifles, as they make really damn good weapons early on, and that is just absolutely fantastic for me, especially with the small guns skill being quite leveled up. Anyways, I finally arrived at Rivet City, so I could finally do some bartering with the merchants there, and by bartering, I mean I stole a lot of the items from them because I don't care about capitalism. Well, I mean I did barter with them afterwards, but I wanted their shit to repair my own shit, and I needed it for free because I didn't have the money. So, after sitting through a very long, very annoying conversation with Dad and Madison Lee, I figured, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm not doing the rest of this main quest, I can't be bothered, so I decided to beeline straight for a little lamplight. I fast traveled back to Smith Casey's garage and set out for my adventure. Nothing much really happened on the way there. It was a pretty boring walk, but, you know, that's about how it goes in Fallout 3. There's not a whole lot to do on that side of the map, so I just kind of got there with no issues, and then spent quite a while quick save, quick loading my way through a wall so that I could just glitch into Little Lamplight and deal with all of that. It wasn't all that bad, though, because I don't have an excuse, honestly. I fucking hate this game, man. I just want it to be over, that's why I did this. And then my will to live plummeted even further by the fact that I had a glitch where I could no longer use my primary weapon. I could not pull out my weapon, I could not pull out my fists, I could not pull out my Pip-Boy. I was pretty much screwed. I had basically no way of really doing anything here. I had no way of equipping a weapon, I had no way of equipping armor, I had no way of repairing items, nothing. So I just went off and found Fox and made him do all the dirty work of bonking the super mutants on the head with his super sledge while I picked up the shit from their bodies because, you know, free items, of course I'm gonna take that. I got a good amount of ammo and stuff out of it, so that was great. Anyways, once I'd gotten the Gek, I got flashbanged by the child molesters, and they kidnapped me and told me that they had candy, so I went with them. And I was not interested in being nice to these guys whatsoever, so I just started killing the Enclave. With small guns leveled up a really good amount, the Enclave didn't really stand a chance. Even in their power armor, they were all down in 1 to 2 shots of the hunting rifle in the head, which is just fantastic. I love the Fallout 3 hunting rifle. It is so fun to use. I'm just surprised that it uses the same ammo as the shitty 32 pistol. I don't know the reasoning for that, if Bethesda just didn't want to make another ammo type or what, but I have no idea why it uses the same ammo as that shitty pistol when the pistol does like 3 damage. Anyways, moving on, I convinced the president to basically kill himself by blowing up Raven Rock, and I stole the FEV thing and left. Well, I tried to leave, but the Enclave kept trying to stop me. Luckily, I had a bunch of Securitrons on my side, and they just, you know, bullied the Enclave to death. I almost noob-tubed Fox, which I kind of would have felt bad about because he was helping me kill Enclave soldiers, and after looting bodies, I convinced him to come with me because, you know, why not? I don't normally use companions in these runs, but I used one for Fallout 1, so I figured, screw it, why not? Let's just use Fox. After that, I fast traveled back to the memorial, spent a few minutes trying to figure out how to get past the fence with parkour, headed over to the Citadel so that I could actually, you know, trigger the Brotherhood's final little event chain to go, you know, attack the Enclave at Liberty Prime, sat through their little cutscene, because of course I had to. I really wish there was a way to just skip this, but of course there's not. And if you could have guessed it, Liberty Prime, of course, broke. I don't know why Liberty Prime seems to break 80% of the time when I play through Fallout 3, but he did yet again. He just kind of stood here for a while and wouldn't break the gate. I really wasn't sure what to do here. I didn't know if console commands would break him himself, so I just went ahead and teleported back to the Jefferson Memorial, started clearing out the Enclave. Dad was still here and alive for some reason as well, which was kind of confusing, but we're just gonna go with it. Me and Fox killed all the Enclave troopers inside before I headed over to the Rotunda to just enter the code and beat the game. That was that. With the code entered and Project Purity up and running, the game was over. I could move on from Fallout 3, which only took me like a little over 2 hours, I think, and I could go play something else. I might not be the biggest fan of Fallout 3, but you know what, I do enjoy playing through it once in a while, just not when the final quest breaks, and I'm timed because I usually just enjoy dicking around and mostly doing the DLCs. Regardless, this one's over, and let's move on to, of course, Fallout New Vegas. Starting out Fallout New Vegas, which I was extremely excited for, I got to actually just play through the game regularly. I haven't got to do that in quite a while, so, you know, it's pretty great to start out that way. My special stats were pretty typical. I just went for a regular guns build like I would normally do when playing through the game. Got enough stats to use basically whatever I wanted and have, you know, proficiency with all the different things. For tag skills, I went with the typical guns, medicine, and speech. I know, it's pretty boring, but I really didn't know what else to do. I thought about doing energy weapons, but I was kind of lazy and didn't really feel like building specifically for energy weapons. For traits, I went with skilled, and then I picked high value target to hopefully get some assassins to come annoy me during the run. Although I never actually saw them, which was kind of weird. I'm not sure if the trait from the mod was just broken or if I didn't play long enough for it to pop up and actually, you know, become a thing, but I never did end up seeing any of the assassins. Of course, my next stop was Chet to barter for some supplies. I would need stim packs, ammo, whatever else I could find really. And then I stopped by another merchant that was basically just selling ammo from one of the difficulty mods that I have installed so that I would not have to stop later, as I had some plans that I wanted to take care of before moving on with the game. Of course, this meant starting my murder spree. I killed Barton Thorne as well as a group of powder gangers before moving on to the little Prim road stop by the NCR and deciding that I was going to kill all of the troopers here. Not entirely sure why, I just felt like murdering them all, mostly because they had cool guns and I wanted them in my inventory. See, this was going great until I decided to equip something else and the game crashed, because of course it did. I'm surprised I didn't have more crashes during this run, but you know what, I'm not going to complain all that much. I only got set back by about 2 or 3 minutes, so I just had to come back in and kill the NCR troopers again, which wasn't really that big of a deal. I also cleared out the rest of the camp. I wasn't going to leave anybody alive, mostly because I just wanted the XP. I don't really need the XP on New Vegas. It's not as big of a thing as it is in, say, Fallout 1 and 2, where you're basically screwed if you don't have certain amounts of levels, but I figured, you know, I'm here, why not just murder people for free shit? And so that's exactly what I did to the Jackals by the Nipton road stop. Explosives seem to be my best friend, especially inside when I killed basically an entire room of people with one single grenade. I of course looted all their bodies for some pretty damn good weapons, one of which being this AK-74U that I found, which did massive amounts of damage to some of the raiders outside that were still alive. I would be using it for this run. Yes, I'm going to use modded weapons. I use modded guns in Fallout 4 as well, and if you have a problem with that, I apologize. Please feel free to leave a dislike on the video if you don't enjoy that, but it's how I enjoy playing the game. I've played these games for years vanilla, and I really just enjoy using some different guns that aren't vanilla, especially on Fallout 4 because I really don't enjoy the vanilla gun system on that game. New Vegas has an absolutely amazing array of weapons, and I love pretty much everything that the game has to offer, but some of the modded guns are just really fun to use. I'm kind of a sound whore when it comes to games. I really like guns that have really crisp sounds, whether it be the firing animation, the reload animation, the equipping animation, whatever it may be. If it has really good sound, I'm just kind of there for it. I don't know why I've been that way. It's just how I've kind of been with a lot of games in general. So if the guns sound really good, it just kind of gives me an incentive to use them. So that's why I use some of the modded guns whenever I'm on New Vegas. Anyways, moving on, I've pretty much slaughtered everyone at Mojave Outpost at this point, as well as most of the Legionnaires in Nipton. Not entirely sure why. Skipping ahead a little bit, I went ahead and went off to the Gunrunners to stock up on some supplies, before heading into Freeside and dealing with my favorite NPC for a free suit of combat armor. I will do this every single run now, it has become tradition. Speaking of tradition, you know what else is tradition for New Vegas? Murdering the Kings. I took that AK-74U that we just got done talking about right over to the Kings and started mowing them all down with it. It was using 5mm rounds, which is pretty reminiscent of the Assault Carbine video, and looking at the stats, this weapon is pretty much identical to the Assault Carbine. They have basically the same fire rate, the same damage, they use the same ammo, so I'm pretty sure it's basically just a reskin, but I'll still use it because it's pretty. Old Ben died, of course, and I headed into the strip to start dealing with the Omertas. They weren't safe from the murder spree either. Not sure why I decided to go basically kill everyone on this route. I figured, you know, why not? Although I didn't do it at the tops, I actually just talked to Swanka and told him to send Benny to his room, where I pulled out a grease gun and just mowed him down on his chair. You know, at least he got to die, you know, comfortably, I guess? I don't know. Whatever. I went and talked to Yes Man because I would be siding with Yes Man this run, although I would be doing his questline a bit differently than I normally do. Starting out, I of course went over to the White Gloves since I was right here. I mean, why not? I was in the area, I might as well head over there and start dealing with them. Of course, their leadership didn't pose much of a threat. He's a man in a fucking top hat that is a cannibal. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. But I spent some time bombing civilians with a couple incendiary grenades that I had and some regular grenades. And then karma got me because I got fucked immediately by the Crimson Caravan guards, which was kind of amusing, to be honest. The second time didn't go much better either. I died pretty much immediately again. Third time, however, was much easier because I just decided to pull out a shotgun and kill them all instantaneously with nice classic buckshot to the head. Anyways, moving on, next up on the list was, you know, George. He deserves to die. Fuck you, George. I'm gonna steal your caps every single run. Pearl was next up on the agenda, and I did nothing else with the boomers, that was literally it. I then went back to Doc Mitchell and bought some stim packs and stocked up on healing supplies before, heading off and dealing with the cons. The cons went about as easy as you would expect. I just used my handy dandy grenade launcher. Normally I don't use this weapon very often, but it's actually pretty damn good, and I'm very glad that I had it for the majority of this run. Then I went to Hidden Valley and sat here contemplating my life for quite a while. I have no idea why. I then figured, yeah, let's go deal with the Legion at Cottonwood Cove and kill off all of them. Wow, I actually remembered to go to Cottonwood Cove and do the Legion part on a Yes Man questline run. Imagine that. Yeah, I figured, it's literally just Mr. House's questline this time around, but instead of going to deal with just the Legion, I basically added the Great Cons into it for no given reason. I might actually start going here more often. I actually kind of like just slaughtering all the Legion. Plus, they're worth a good amount of experience and decent healing items. I spent some time clearing out pretty much the entire camp using a hunting rifle that I found earlier, talked to Mr. House in the bunker for some reason. I'm not even sure why I talked to him. I guess I just wanted to see if you could, but whatever. I inserted the platinum chip, upgraded the Securitrons, booked my way out of the bunker because radiation's scary, went back to the Lucky 38 and of course killed Mr. House because he deserved it, and then went and got Yes Man and told him that he could come join me at the Lucky 38, so that's exactly what he did. After that, I had to sit through my favorite part of the game, which was watching the Securitrons be upgraded. You all know how much I love this. This is just groundbreaking right here. It's just so fun to watch. Anyways, off to the Brotherhood. They died pretty quickly. The shotgun made quick work of them. Well, at least the guards up front anyways. I used a different shotgun down below to try to kill the guards from range. It really wasn't working out for me though all that well. I kind of had to just kite them into this little staircase that I was camping in to kill them efficiently. But of course, I also picked up a Gauss rifle earlier, and I used that to kill off a bunch of the other Brotherhood members, including Elder McNamara, who somehow tanked a Gauss rifle shot, which was pretty terrifying. Anyways, back to Yes Man. I let him know the Brotherhood was dead, the Legate was dealt with, or not the Legate, god damn it, the fucking Legion, the bunker, whatever, they were upgraded. Anyways, off to El Dorado, and I had another graphical glitch. I still haven't figured out how to fix this. I'll fix it eventually. Whatever. All the soldiers inside died, which meant that I could power on the substation, head back to the Lucky 38, and start the second battle of Hoover Dam. I'm gonna skip over the majority of this. We've been over this how many times? New Vegas is the most played game on the channel by far. I killed people. I killed more people. I killed Legionnaires. Didn't kill the NCR because they were nice to me for some reason here. I have no idea why. They only got hostile to me like halfway through. I used Annabelle, which I picked up at Black Mountain when I killed Tabitha. Continued running to the Legate's camp. Popped a whole bunch of drugs before dealing with the Legate, who died pretty much instantaneously. This is probably the easiest time I've ever had fighting the Legate since I had armor-piercing rounds on an AK-74U. I killed off all of his guards, killed off everyone else in the camp, picked up the Legate's sword, and then used it to bonk the NCR Rangers and General Oliver, which arrived as soon as, the Legion were dead, talked to Yes Man, and that was that. New Vegas was over. I beat Fallout New Vegas in... wait... that's not right for this run. Whatever. New Vegas was done. I enjoyed it thoroughly, as I always do. I absolutely love this game. Not as much as I love Fallout 2, though. I still think Fallout 2 is a better game in general, but that's just me being biased. And we could move on to Fallout 4. Of course, for Fallout 4, I spent some time making my specials, and I really wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do this run, so I just kind of evened everything out with good perks that I figured I would take. I spent a little bit creating my character, and then skipped the pre-war segment, although I did wait a little while before skipping it to where it was, kind of even on how much time I would have saved by skipping it, because I feel like people are going to complain that that's kind of unfair, but I don't really care. I don't like sitting through that anyways. I spent a while looting junk from Sanctuary, and then killed my first group of enemies, that being some raiders right outside of Sanctuary, which I used a frag grenade that I got out of a mailbox on. Not entirely sure why there was a frag grenade in a mailbox, but it kind of makes me want to do a Fallout 4 with only items from a mailbox run like I did on New Vegas. I got assaulted by some raiders in power armor before even making it to Concord, and then spent time clearing out Concord. I wasn't going to side with the Minutemen, so I didn't go inside and help them to begin with, because I really didn't want to waste time here. I did come back later, though. I did jack the minigun as well before I left, because, it's a minigun. I figured I could use it early on since it has a shit ton of ammo, and it would sell good later on if I ever needed the extra caps for a different gun. I spent some time bartering, with Trash Can Carla, who discounts you on supplies if you make the right speech choice when first talking to her, as well as Trudy, who gave me a good amount of experience in caps for killing Wolfgang and his compatriot outside. I then took time out of my day to kill a glowing one with a pistol, not entirely sure why. Also, I'd like to preface before we get too deep into this run, again, I mentioned it earlier, but I will be using modded guns this run, so if you see a gun that is not from the game, don't worry about it, it's from a mod. I also have a difficulty mod installed, which makes me take 2 times as much damage on very hard, but also deal 2 times as much damage to enemies, so that's why you'll notice that even with good armor, my health is going to be dropping really quickly in fights, but I'm also going to be doing really substantial damage to enemies during each fight. That's due to, the mod, which I run just based off of difficulty. I think it makes it more fair if I die quickly as well as enemies. But moving on, I did some bartering with Arturo to buy some supplies, and then the game broke on me. This is what I was talking about in one of my community posts the other day, but the game decided to break the main quest early on. I got Ellie to mark Park Street Station for me, and I could go rescue Nick, so after leaving the detective agency, the game told me to go back inside as my quest marker, and that's when I found Nick just standing here. Except he had his vault dialogue from when you first rescue him from Dino. I have no idea what this was about. I have never seen this before. I just kind of sat here for a while because Nick was just running through his dialogue of who built this damn vault, a fitness instructor, blah blah blah. So I just kind of waited for a little bit, and then he was here and I could sit down and talk to him about the next step to take, which was of course me going up to the mayor and stealing Kellogg's key from his pockets so that I could go break into Kellogg's house. So, of course, I went ahead and stole all of Kellogg's shit while I was in his house because, it's mine now. Unlocked a safe that had a set of NCR Ranger combat armor in it, which I took for myself and would be wearing for the rest of the run. Fight me, I don't care, it looks sexy and I'm going to wear it. Then I gave the cigar to Dogmeat so that I could head off towards Fort Hagen, which didn't take me all that long to reach, except for the fact that I got jumped by a legendary Deathclaw on the way there, which, of course, in Bethesda fashion, did not drop anything worth picking up. I'm pretty sure I got like a legendary leather arm piece or something. It was pretty worthless. I actually ran into a good amount of legendary enemies on this run, which was kind of surprising since normally I don't find a lot of legendary enemies, and not one of them really dropped anything good. I think the best thing I got was like a wounding service rifle or something, like right near the end of the run, so it was kind of depressing the fact that I didn't really get any good legendaries. But regardless, I went ahead and started clearing out the synths and turrets inside, which weren't all that challenging, except for the fact that they did a stupid high amount of damage to me, which I was not expecting. I looted pretty much anything I could because I would be using the microfusion cells later once I got to the Institute, and I would be siding with the Institute this run because I don't know why. I usually just side with them out of the fact that they're like the most experienced quests that I have. I don't really do the other quest lines all that much in Fallout 4. I usually do them for challenge runs, but like personally, whenever I play through the game regularly, I always side with the Institute just because I like having their little base down there. It's just a really nice spot to sit, so I, prefer it. Anyways, on my way to Kellogg, I lockpicked a nice little door, picked up a couple weapons inside, one of which being a Fat Man, which I used to just nuke the absolute shit out of Kellogg and his synths, one of which didn't die, because of course it didn't, so I had to kill that synth and then move on back to Diamond City after, scooping out Kellogg's little brain synaptic whatever. I kind of forgot what it was called, but anyways, we're just gonna pretend that I know what it's called. So I went and did some bartering with Arturo, picked up a unique Gauss rifle from Fallout New Vegas, which was modded into the game, dealt with the conversation with Nick and Piper, and then headed off towards Good Neighbor so that I could get the chip analyzed there by Dr. Amari. The run there was pretty standard. I dealt with some super mutants, dealt with a Deathclaw that was just in the middle of the city for some reason, dealt with a legendary fog crawler because of course I had to deal with that, and then decided while I was in the area, why not try to kill Swan. This actually went a lot easier than I was expecting. He died in about 4 shots from the Gauss rifle, 2 of which did like next to no damage for some reason. I arrived in Good Neighbor and immediately went over to barter with Cleo because Cleo has a good selection of weapons, armor, and ammunition that I would be using for the rest of the run. I wasn't super low on supplies, but I wanted to stay on top of it and pretty much pick up whatever I could at the moment, so I grabbed it while I was here and then headed over to Dr. Amari so that I could sit through the most boring segment of the entire game, which was Kellogg's Memories. Normally, I just go AFK here, but because I can't and I actually have to pay attention this run and I don't have time to waste, I had to actually sit here and listen to everything. It was pretty annoying. It's just the usual. I have to sit here. Normally I go get a snack or something and I'm gone for 10, 15 minutes, whatever. But on this run, I don't have the luxury of doing that. So it was back to Fort Hagen since that was the closest location I had discovered to the glowing sea. On the way there, I dealt with raiders, turrets, gunners, whatever, and through the glowing sea, I got ambushed by all sorts of annoying little bastards on my way to Virgil. I had to deal with legendary rad scorpions, death claws, blood bugs, I forget the other thing. Is it a stingwing, I believe? I don't remember, honestly. There's a lot of annoying shit here. I pretty much just killed everything. I didn't die on the way there, which was surprising. Normally I end up dying once or twice because I get, touched inappropriately by some sort of high-level enemy because of the way that my difficulty scaling mods work. But, of course, I got lucky this run and didn't have to waste time doing that. Virgil told me to piss off to Green Tech Genetics and kill a courser, so that's exactly what I did. I discovered CIT ruins on my way to Diamond City earlier in the run, so this wasn't too bad to walk over and deal with, as it was probably about a minute walk away. The gunners were actually staggeringly challenging this run. I'm not entirely sure why they did so much damage to me, but I died here more times than I care to admit, and that's what, kind of aggravated me about dealing with the gunners this time around. They just did so much damage, and it was just wasting so many healing items on the way there, because I had to deal with just a ridiculous amount of damage coming my way. However, the courser was just disappointingly bland. I mean, he died in like 2 seconds. I also killed all the witnesses up top, and I wanted their items, so, I generally gave myself a pass on murdering civilians. I found probably the best legendary I would ever see in Fallout, a pool cue, and then went off to the railroad where I just started killing them. I had zero reason to work with them this run. I wasn't doing their questline, and they were absolutely irrelevant for the Institute, and they would need to die later, so why not just kill them now? This saves me time from coming back here later on and going through loading screens, blah blah blah. So I got the chip analyzed, went back to Virgil, who gave me the schematics, and then it was time to go get help so that I could build the signal interceptor. Of course, the Minutemen were pretty much the easiest option for me, so I went back to Concord, started clearing out all the raiders with an AK that I found in the Railroad HQ, helped Preston and the Minutemen out, dealt with all the raiders outside, which wasn't all that bad, went back to Sanctuary, and we're just gonna kind of skip over the rest of the, Minutemen setting up questline because I just don't care, and then I built the signal interceptor. I did do what they required me to do, but I'm just gonna skip over going over it in the recording. I mean, you guys can see the timer in the top left, so you know that I would have not actually skipped anything. Anyways, moving on, the Institute didn't break on me like it did last run, which is what I was terrified of for playing Fallout 4 again. I still have no idea what happened in that video. I'm glad that I'm not in the eternal void again. Anyways, moving on in the Institute, I decided to talk to Father and get all that out of the way, and go sit through, of course, all of the boring dialogue that is dealing with the Institute. I absolutely hate the institutionalized quest with a passion because it's pretty much just walking around for 10 minutes talking to people. So we're gonna kind of skip over that to when I was dealing with more combat. Yay. I picked up an LAER, which is one of my favorite energy weapons from New Vegas, down in the Institute, and I used that to kill off a bunch of raiders on my way over to Libertalia so that I could, liberate one of the synths for Father to prove to him that I was a good father. I had a joke there, I don't know where it went. Anyways, I spent more time than was realistically necessary clearing out all of the raiders in Libertalia, with X6 being basically useless as a companion. With that, I moved on since I had no other reason to stay here after wiping out the raiders, and did some more bartering with Cleo to stock up on supplies one last time before heading back to the Institute to progress the game. Which, of course, just consisted of more boring dialogue with Father and just dealing with all-around Institute bullshit. I do love the Institute questline, but goddamn is there a lot of unnecessary dialogue. Next up was the Battle of Bunker Hill, which was generally pretty easy since I hadn't pissed off the Brotherhood yet, so pretty much the only people down here that really hated me were the Railroad. I did end up killing a couple of the Brotherhood down here, but I just kind of wanted their free items. The synths were recovered, and I could head back to Father to let him know that I was done with all that. He told me that the Railroad needed to be dealt with, but I had already killed them earlier, and then he told me that he had a terminal illness and he was going to die. Speeding along, and the next thing on the list was, of course, Mass Fusion, where I just cyberbullied the Brotherhood into dying and giving me their loot for free because I wanted the experience and stuff to sell. I got harassed by one of the sentry bots because I tried to fight it with a chainsaw, which didn't go well. I had multiple limbs broken and nearly died about 4 or 5 times before deciding that I could just, use the LAER. Once that was done, I harassed more of the Brotherhood with energy weapons back in the Rotunda before going back to the Institute so that I could help a random scientist who needed to be freed from locking himself in a room. Spoke off some propaganda so that the Institute would be seen as nicer people, and then moved on to inserting the beryllium agitator into the reactor. Once that was done, it was time for the final stretch of the game, that being assaulting the Brotherhood and Liberty Prime, which wasn't all that bad, except for the part where the Brotherhood was a goddamn nightmare for this run. I don't know why I struggled so much with the Brotherhood here, but it took me a good amount of time here, and I died more times than I'd care to admit just trying to fight my way through the Brotherhood. I don't know if it was just the weapons or what, but I wasted so much time in healing here, it was ridiculous. Eventually, all the generators were down, and I just had to camp up by the synth so that he could infect the, giant communist robot with the virus, and then that was it. The Brotherhood was done. Liberty Prime shot down the Pridwin, and that was the game. I beat all 5 mainline Fallout games in under 24 hours. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the support. If you have suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did recording it, because while it was a massive project to undertake, it was insanely fun, and I may do something like this in the future with another game series, Dark Souls. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for the support. The channel has been blowing up lately. It has been absolutely amazing to see the growth, and I'm excited for what the future has. Thank you guys for making all of this possible, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.